Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kathy Corrigan. I'm a personal trainer as well as Pilates instructor and a spin instructor. I'm going to talk about the core today. The core. We hear about the core all the time. Everyone says, let's work our core and make our core stronger. What is the core anyway? A lot of us think the core is just our abdominals. It truly is not just your abdominals. That is a major part of your core, but your core basically is your whole midsection of your body, which really includes your back, your chest, and it does include those abs, also the hips. But again, it's not just the abs. But again, most of us just think about that, the core being just our abdominals. There's important components of the core in the abdominal region, and those are the transversus, the rectus, the obliques, and the erector spinae. The transverse is actually one of the most important components of the core, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. The rectus is which what most people are pretty familiar with, or mostly familiar with, and that is what people refer to as the six pack. Some of us actually have a six pack, so those are upper abdominal muscles. Some of us might even only have a two pack, but it is the most visible part of the abdominals usually, because once you start to work, usually you will see that definition come into play there. So you'll get that six pack or two pack or four pack effect. The oblique muscles run internally, externally, and they are on the sides of the abdominal muscle. The erector spinae is a group of muscles and tendons, and it runs the whole length of basically the vertebral column. And that is responsible for strengthening, keeping the back strong and keeping it straight, and also providing you the ability to move from side to side and rotate. So the core is a really important part of our body. It basically is a stabilizer for an entire body, and it really allows you to move any direction as well as having proper balance, and it really supports the body to prevent falls. It's one of the most important parts of the body, again, because it involves so many different muscle groups. When we talk about the core then, an often overlooked, and underworked sometimes muscle is the transversus, which again is part of that abdominal structure. It is the deepest core muscle, is in fact 4 layers deep. It's located next to the pelvic floor muscles. Its primary function is to stabilize the lumbar spine and pelvis and prepare it for basically movement of the upper and lower limbs. So it's a really important part of the core. A lot of times, again, it's overlooked. It's below your belly button. And again, we're getting into that pelvic floor. So it's a lower part of your abdominals, if you will. So we really should focus a little bit more on tightening that transversus. Try to think of the transversus as putting on a really tight, low belt and just tightening it and really drawing in and feeling those deep muscles low, not just tightening at the top, kind of superficially where the rectus or that six pack is. It's the deepest muscle in the core. And again, it's like the corset of the spine and the pelvis, if you'll think of it that way. So I know a lot of us are now, since we're having our stay at home here, are working from home. So a lot of you might sit at your computer or at your desk for many long hours. So you might start to have a little bit of back pain and you might get a little stiff. So one way to alleviate that is to really work on those transverse muscles. And you can do that by maybe sitting on an exercise ball and trying to sit up nice and tall and straight and pull in, not just again at the top of the abdominals, but to pull in thinking belly button and spine and to really go deep and kind of really feel those deep muscles down there. Again, towards the pelvic floor. So really pulling that in, and you can kind of practice that and you'll get the feel for that. So again, sitting on an exercise ball, that's a good way. Taking frequent breaks when you're sitting a lot is another good way to just alleviate the back pain and concentrate a little bit more and maybe moving around. And when you are up and moving around, whether you're exercising or you're just walking, again, try to think about drawing in and really feeling the whole abdominal muscle, really feeling, again, that low transverse, really important to start working on that. And again, you can kind of just practice engaging that. Also, if you're not really familiar where that might be, or you don't really understand the whole abdominal muscle core thing, if you lie down on your back and you take your thumbs and you touch them, and then you take your forefingers, or your index fingers actually, I'm sorry, and you touch them together and kind of make a little diamond shape, you can go ahead and take a breath, and then you can start to pull in and then really exhale deeply and keep drawing in. You'll start to be able to feel those muscles with your fingers and with your hand there as you draw in, and it might help you to become a little more familiar with where they are and how they feel. Because sometimes we really don't know that. So that's a good way to practice if you're not sure what we're really talking about when we're referring to particularly those lower abdominal muscles, which again are really overlooked and neglected. So again, those are good things to practice. The strong core muscles, they really make like everyday movements as well as exercise easier, basically. So anytime we can do anything to strengthen those muscles, it's going to basically help you to do everything a little bit better and prevent back pain and improve your balance, possibly prevent injuries. So some of the basic exercise a lot of people are already familiar with to work core are like bridges and planks and crunches, crisscross crunch, bicycle crunch, roll-ups. Those are really good ways to strengthen your core on a regular basis. Again, though, you want to do your movement slow and controlled and really think about what you're doing. So you don't want a really fast movement. Again, you never want to pull in the head or neck. You want to really feel that deep engagement of the muscle. So this is kind of just a little brief reminder of what core is, or maybe you learned a little bit what it is if you didn't know. So kind of just be aware of the core and try to think about when you're doing something, even if you're just doing some weights, that you want to maybe draw on abdominals and really think about your posture, and it'll make your body a bit stronger, make your movement stronger. So again, just a little thought for today. So stay strong and stay well, and I hope to see you soon in the future. Thanks for joining.